Okay, so anyway, I remember I was talking about kayaks. So yes, I kept him clean, and it did take 4 or 5 days. If you experience a hot spot, they're pretty normal for our Goldens, especially, and with medication or something, if you catch it immediately and start gold bonding it like crazy, you might get lucky and it'll just go away by itself. But kayak in one night just blew up, and so blew up just means it got worse, and I knew without medication I could not fix it. So he went to the
Wendy,
vet. He's much better.
Wendy,
Yes,
did you
yes,
say that was Gold Bond?
yes. I use Gold Bond, and I use the generic sometimes.
Is it powder or lotion?
Yeah, no, it's powder. Yep, and I
Oh.
douse it on them, and yeah.
Oh, that's new to me. I've heard witch hazel, but this sounds better.
Yeah, so I'll sometimes use the actual Gold Bond, and sometimes if I don't feel like paying $6 for a thing of powder, I will use the Equate, I think, which is the equivalent of it. I just make sure it has the same ingredients as Gold Bond.
Okay,
Yes.
sounds awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, so and that's, to be honest, that's, you literally have to catch the hot spot as it starts. If you don't catch it within a few hours, it's already too late, usually for most dogs. I've had a couple dogs where I've caught it and been able to save it with the Gold Bond, but Kayak's was too far gone, and he needed, I think she gave him prednisone and something else. And within 4 days, I think 4 or 5 days, he's much better. I don't see any sign. You just feel a little bit of scabbing underneath. So for those of you who don't know what a hot spot is, you have a Golden. I don't know, Laura, does it happen, or Valerie, does it happen with the labs?
Yeah, it happens with labs. I've had 2.
Okay.
Even Bob's had it.
Okay.
And you'll never know because labs don't complain.
Right.
They just deal with whatever.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you'll be like feeling around and they'll have like a hot spot under their chin or something. And yeah. And it takes a little bit of a while for it to heal too.
Yeah. Yeah. So kayaks.
They're a bacterial infection on the skin.
Yep.
And it can be a bug bite that then there's an entrance into the bloodstream, and it just.
Yes.
With labs, it can occur if they're swimming, although our dogs aren't allowed to swim, so that shouldn't be a problem. But if they're laying their face and they've been running around a lot and they're really tired and it's humid, we're in Florida and it's hot, and they lay down for an hour or two in something wet, and they don't move around a lot, that can cause it.
Yes, and I think Kayaks was possibly from a bath. Like, I don't know if after the bath, if I washed or dried under his ears properly, because I
could see with Goldens more hair.
Yes.
That might be a little bit of an issue.
So I will have to tell you, Kayak was very sad. Like, I think because the skin gets raw and then it gets pussy. And so Kayak was very sad. Like, he was not the same dog for like 3 days. He just was like sad, like, this hurts, it doesn't feel good. And as soon as the medicine kicked in and did its job, then he was back to the same dog. But prior to that, he was very sad.
And you have to be careful with labs because they'll never act sad. They'll just kind of troop on and just be like, well, I'm a lab, and it's not a big deal. And probably because their hair is not as long. So there's a difference I've noticed in a lot of years. So.
Interesting. Yeah, no, Kayak definitely acted different. So it was kind of funny. Yeah. So that's about grooming. Like I said, you don't have to you do not take your dog to a groomer, but they do have to be washed. Washing them is really, I know that's one of the things on our evaluation form is how often. I always put as needed. So if my dog can go a month and they just smell like a dog, they don't smell like, then I don't wash them. But if they go a couple of weeks and I'm like, oh my God, you smell like a dog badly, then I give them a bath. So I always
brush them a lot.
Yes. Our Goldens get brushed a lot. Your puppies, so you may not need to brush your puppies as often. So I don't need to brush Kayak as often as I need to brush Quinn, but it's good for them to be brushed on a regular basis because then it gets them used to being brushed. Also, for those of you that have puppies, you should be holding their paws and kissing their paws and touching their paws and blowing on their paws and just everything to get them used to having their paws in your hands, because it helps them with their training down the road and a vet handling them and all of those things. Okay, so we've talked about grooming, talked about being out. I told you the story about the person who was captured on TikTok, and I hope I was clear. It was a New Horizons dog that was on the TikTok video. But the person who captured the video didn't really know what they were seeing or what they were talking about, nor I don't think they even approached the raiser and said, hey, this is what I see. They just decided to videotape it on TikTok and throw it out there. And so, yeah, I think
Wendy,
that's it. Yes.
One other thing about the summertime and traveling, we did have a raiser be denied service at a place in Flagler Beach, and they had the police called. These people were adamant that they did not have to provide service. She had a copy of the Florida statute that allows the dog in. They wouldn't even look at it. And what Sandra told me was next time she's going to be the one to call the police rather than waiting for them to, because the police officer didn't know either. And the story kept changing from the folks that had denied him. First it was, no, the dog can't come in. And then it was, no, we just don't want him to come in, meaning her husband who had the dog. We denied him service, and we can deny him service. And so her things to say were, one, call the police yourself, and two, video it. Somebody in your party, turn on your phone and record what's happening. Because the police said, well, do you have video of what was said or what happened? And they said no. In last month's newsletter, there is a link to a state reporting agency where if you have an access issue, it's not just for clients. If a place denies you service, there is a place to report it, and they are to follow up. So besides doing a Yelp review and a Google review and all those kinds of things, which she said when she started to write it, she found several others where people had been denied service. Sounds like a place for a field trip personally, but
yeah, we were denied service in New York, in Lake Placid, near Lake Placid in Wilmington, New York, at a place called High Falls Gorge. And the lady really did not, and I had already looked up New York law on service dogs and trained prior to even walking in. So I knew that Kayak had access. And she said, this is private property. And I said, no, it's not. You're letting the public in. I'm paying to come in and see your falls. She goes, yeah, but the owner doesn't. I said, then, I was very nice. In fact, I asked my sister and brother-in-law who were there and probably dying, but asked them later. I said, okay, I want you guys to be honest. Was I rude? And they're like, no, not at all. So I tried to keep my cool. I said, you don't know the law. And then they tried to shove the ADA law at me. I said, I know the ADA law, but I also know the Florida statute states that this dog is allowed in here. And so we went, and she wasn't understanding. No, a fully trained service dog. And Tim said, well, how is he supposed to get trained to be places like this if you're not going to let him in? So it was
same thing with the airlines.
Yeah. Well, see, the airline is the one thing that has the right to refuse you. They're one of the only. So unfortunately, yes, that's why you really want to double and triple check that your airline will take your dog, because they can refuse a service dog in training. So yeah, so we walked out and I gave them a review. And yes, so it happens. That was the first time in a long time. So it was kind of good for me to brush up on my, debating skills. I didn't win, but it was okay. I might have gotten my point across. Maybe not. We'll see.
Wendy, may I just say something real quick?
Yeah.
Just be aware though that people can refuse service, and arguing and having the police call is not usually a good thing. Right. Because then they can trespass you personally from the property. And if you again refuse to leave, then they can have you arrested for trespassing. So, I mean, just let them know what it is and just leave.
Yeah.
And just write a review. Don't try to take it too far with, because then it could get ugly.
Yes. Well, we did. I mean, that's what I did. And then I left. And my brother-in-law actually had paid for him and his wife to get in, and he asked for his money back. And we went to the White Base Mountain, had a much more fun time. So this evening, Laura, we're talking about poo, aren't we?
We are. The place in Flagler was Flagler Brewery, I believe, something like that. I'll find out for sure.
Okay, while you're looking, I'm just going to mention a couple other things. So if you're new or not new, your puppy, older dog, whatever dog you have, should be being crate trained. They should be in a crate. So a really good question we had the last training that we had was, well, what if my dog stays out at night, but they're in during the day while I'm at work? Either way, it doesn't matter as long as your dog is getting some crate training so that they're in that crate for a few hours, whether it's at night or during the day when you're at work, and then you feel safe leaving them out at night. That's on you. Like if, I've trusted Kayak out. He's done pretty well out, but I try to make sure you guys who have older dogs, if you wanted to do every other night, one night in the crate and one night out of the crate, they just can't forget what it's like to be in a crate, because they get transported in crates. They are in crates in the prison system. And so please be aware that you have to be using a crate.
Wendy,
are you ready? I'm ready.
Eileen had something about hematomas on ears. You might want to look at, or she might want to speak to before we start talking poo.
Okay. I saw David says Andy's got on the Tropicana Field Jumbotron during a Rays game. Thank goodness he trimmed his paws before he left for the game. Yes.
And how cool to have him on the Jumbotron.
I know.
Cool.
David, did you get a picture of it? Can't you get a picture of the Jumbotron? I guess only if you realize that it's up there. Oh, awesome. It's cool. I don't see, was it on the chat, Laura?
Eileen? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Bowie had a surgery for a hematoma.
Oh.
And she says, do people know about your hematomas? And I thought, well.
So hematoma is a buildup of blood because your dog's shaking the ear.
It's a bruise, and it can be from just horseplay. It can be from flapping their ears due to allergies or whatever. Bowie had none of those things. But what happens is it's like a big bruise and the blood accumulates. Well, what I did was I took a marker by the time I saw it and took the marker and marked his ear with the area affected. The width of the ear was over 1 inch thick with blood and fluid.
Oh.
And very common, I guess, in the hot weather too, along with the hot spots. And so a lot of people aren't aware of them, but check your dog's ears. Yes, if they're shaking their heads, they can be very annoying, but one of the outcomes can be that a blood vessel breaks, the ear fills up. You can work with your vet and these things can be brought under control, but because I had marked it, in 3 days' time, it had grown another, which was over the weekend, it had grown another 1.25 inches. And so back to the vet we were, and they drained it. He's doing very well. But you know, if it happens to your dog, you probably will want to check with the office or somebody else as far as, send them a picture of it so that they can help you decide what needs to be done.
Yes, I had a pet, my own pet golden that happened to. One time, one dog, I had the ear drained several times.
The other dog, I read where you could just let it reabsorb back in, and it did. His ear got a little tiny crinkly, but so obviously, you know, if it's a New Horizons dog, you don't make that decision. You let New Horizons make that. But with my own personal dog, I made that. Yeah, this was my own dog.
Well, and originally when we saw the vet the first time, we were going to see if it would just go down. But when it didn't stay stationary and was growing by leaps and bounds, you can cause permanent damage. So it's just at this time of year, they're scratching their ears, they're playing, they're doing whatever. If you notice something funny on the ear and the dog's continuing to shake, let the office know.
Yep, absolutely. They're like little bumps is what you first feel, unless they blow right up.
Yeah, it gets kind of spongy and thick.
Yep. Okay, Laura, it's all about poo.
All about poo. Let's talk. You know what? This was in the newsletter, and you all should have gotten newsletters yesterday, I think, in your email. There's a link also that talks about dog diarrhea. Why do we care? Why are we looking at poo? Because it's a good general indicator of how your dog's doing. And so you want to know what their normal poo looks like. And some dogs, it's more like self-serve normally than others. But you need to know what normal looks like for your dog. If your dog has multiple BMs in a day, the first one is probably going to be firmer than subsequent ones in that day, just because it hasn't been in the intestine as long and it hasn't absorbed as much water out. If it's been in the intestine overnight, it's had time to absorb water out, and that first morning poo is apt to be the firmest of the day. That's pretty typical. But if you start seeing color changes, texture issues, you need to pay attention. Some of these colors literally give you a clue as to what could be going on. We have a dog that has intestinal issues with stress and with foods. If he gets the wrong kinds of proteins, he bleeds. And sometimes the poo is red, it's fresh blood, and sometimes it's almost black. And when it's almost black, that means there has been blood, it's old blood, and it's from further up in the intestinal, in the GI tract than the red stuff. If they're eating a lot of grass, if they eat a lot of veggies, it's going to change color. If you see little white spots, those little white spots could very well be worm eggs. So be aware. You don't have to look at every single stool sample, but it's just a good general indicator of your dog's health. If they are super watery and they are continuing to have multiple bowel movements in a day, you're bordering on diarrhea. The dog gets urgent to go out. Then you're going to have to look at making sure that they don't get dehydrated, particularly in these warm weathers that most of us are experiencing. Maybe not those in Maine, but for us right here in Florida right now, lots of liquid. If you're not adding water to your dog's kibble, that's another good way to get some additional water in. And if they have diarrhea, you want to be really careful about dehydration. Diarrhea for a day, call Caitlin, let her know. Particularly with a puppy, if they're teething, they may have diarrhea. It's kind of like with little children. Little children, adult human children, when they teeth, sometimes they run fever. Sometimes puppies get diarrhea. If it lasts longer than 24 hours, you definitely want to let somebody in the office know. And at that point, particularly with a pup who's smaller, they can dehydrate much faster than a larger dog. You want to let the office know. and they will advise you about seeking veterinary care or not. It is possible to give your dog Imodium, human Imodium. It doesn't have to be the brand name. You just have to be sure it has the same active ingredient, which starts with an L, but I don't remember what it is. Valerie can probably put it in the chat for us because I know she's experienced with it. That active ingredient is safe for dogs, and there are, yep, see, I told you, she's good. It does give you information about dosing on the website that's leaked right above the picture in the newsletter. It talks about how much per pound of dog, and it doesn't take much. What else about poo would you like to know or hear about? Touch or feel, sniff or not? Yeah. Oh, by the way, be sure that you are picking up after your dog when you're out in public. That's another public relations nightmare if you don't. It's not just common courtesy. In many places, it is a city ordinance. And we want to be good examples of what responsible owners look like with our animals. So we have just started putting New Horizons cards in the right side of the vest and poo bags in the left pocket. And it with Wendy and I trading dogs for so many years, we just knew left pocket poo bags, right pocket cards, and you had them right there. With the bandanas, there's no pocket. And so you have to be sure to stick one in your pocket, your own pocket, or in a bag or something that when you're out and about, you have what you need.
Yes, and I think Laura mentioned this, but it's, so if you see a stool that you think, oh, you have a question about, don't panic. Even if there's a little bit of blood in it, don't panic, don't freak out, because chances are there's not something wrong that can't be dealt with within the 24-hour period. But I know sometimes when people, oh my goodness, my dog has diarrhea. That's the biggest one, is our dogs get diarrhea. And sometimes it can just be from eating something other than their food. You give them a piece of banana, or you give them, normally dogs don't have a problem with that, but it could be from eating part of a paper towel. So just be mindful that they'll get diarrhea, and give it about 12 hours and see if it corrects itself. In that 12 hours or 24-hour period, you can try. Did you mention white rice and pumpkin, Laura?
I did not.
Okay, so white rice and pumpkin are two good things to give your dogs. When you see diarrhea, if you see it go on, maybe they two stool, they go to the bathroom twice, and both of those times it's diarrhea. Okay, so maybe they need a little bit of white rice or pumpkin, and that's not bad. You don't give them a whole can of it, a spoonful or two, and see if that helps to solidify things a little bit. If it continues to go and you've gone 24 hours and that dog still has diarrhea, then you need to call the office while calling your vet to find out what you need to do. Usually it will correct itself. I know my Quinn, if she eats something that's off her normal diet, sure enough, she'll get diarrhea. And being in these different places, she is finding different things to eat. So it's happened a couple of times. And I just kind of give it some time, let it go through, and the problem fixes itself. But that chart that Laura shared with you is a pretty good one, pretty good indicator of where your dog should be and what to be aware of. Puppies, sometimes the babies under 5 months, sometimes under 6 months, will get diarrhea just because they just get it. So they did a perfect stool the day before, and then the next morning they've got diarrhea, and it's just part of being a puppy. So, if you're concerned, obviously you're going to call the office, but it's usually something that will correct itself unless there is something else going on. I have a question myself. So Quinn is on heartworm, just like all the other dogs. And every once in a while, I'll see what I think looks like a little worm in her stool. But it's not, it's like one, it's not a lot. it doesn't last. I'll see it in one stool, but then the next day I don't. Is that, I mean, my other dogs have had like worms before, you know, in their stools where I've had to go and get antibiotics. So is that a thing? Like, can they get one worm?
Not usually. I would be more apt to think a thread or a fiber would be more likely than a single
Well,
worm.
no, it's moving.
Oh.
Yes. And it happens with her, like, we'll go months and she'll literally have a worm in her stool. And so then I'll be watching every stool after that and I don't see them. And then in a few months, I'll see again one little. So I don't know. I mean, she seems fine. I don't know. And I've asked the vet about it and they're like, well, if it's not continual, then, but I just wondered if anybody else had ever dealt with that.
Well, one of the things about the heartworm, yes, we're all on heartworm meds and all of your dogs should be getting them monthly. We are going to ask in February that everybody get their dog's heartworm checked. On our forms, officially, we're supposed to have our dog's heartworm checked annually. And we very seldom, as puppy raisers, have a dog for a year. So what we were hoping to do was in February, which is Heart Month, Heart Awareness Month, ask you to take whatever dog you have to the vet for a heartworm check so that over time, all of our dogs will have had an annual heartworm check. And that's just part of the regime of good management with heartworm medications.
Hey, Wendy. It's me.
Hello, me. Oh,
Hi.
your pups. You're
I'm
the
busy.
culprit.
I was on the phone and I was busy working, so.
Figured it out.
They can have tapeworms where there's not a list, there are a lot of them, and you see one once in a while.
Okay.
It's normally
So
roundworms tend to be really long. Tapeworms,
yeah, no, it's not roundworms.
Tape is generally like white rice.
Right, because they break off, right? So should I mean, and it's literally, I see one in a stool and then I don't see one for a long time.
And none of the normal monthly heartworm, normally pills do not take care of that. It's a specific drug. So sometime when you're at the vet, you may want to get the tapeworm meds.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't sound like they're loaded, but it can be up there in the
No.
intestines and, get an occasional one.
Okay. We'll do.
David, that's really good.
And with the dogs, they can get a little bit of a stomach virus. Also, stress can trigger diarrhea. If you've been to a new place the day before, don't be alarmed if you got some stress diarrhea the next day.
Yes.
I wouldn't worry about diarrhea for 2 days. And, a lot of times they just may pick up something and it goes through their system and then they're better.
Yeah. Well, I usually wait 24 hours before I give them either pumpkin or rice.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wait longer. It just depends on where I am and what's going on.
And how old your dog is. Because if
it's
a pup, they can dehydrate much faster. So.
If it's rip-roaring diarrhea, that's another story, puddling. But soft, that can be just stress.
Yep.
Wait, 48 hours before you call Caitlin. I can hear Caitlin going, oh my God, they're all going to call me with soft fruit now. Anything else you need before I'm going back to, I'm doing emails.
Oh, no.
Yell if you need me.
I think so. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Janet.
Okay. So are we good with poo?
Unless people have poo questions. You feel like you know your shit now? Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Okay, so just this is a reminder too. We're gonna go on in a minute, but before I forget, so you can if you're near the office and you have a puppy and you need a DPV, you can go to the office. You just have to call ahead. You must call ahead. Also, that's for meds and for food. Okay. So meds at this point are still free from a grant for razors. Okay, for razors. So please call the office and let them know that you're coming for food or heart medicine. Yeah. So I want to share something with you guys about your dog's sleeping patterns. Just because I thought it was very interesting. So if your dog sleeps, hang on, I'm gonna give you a picture, I'll give you a visual. So if your dog sleeps on their side like this, or on their back like this, or they sleep back to back with you, they're usually they can be considered just relaxed. They're relaxed, they're safe, they're in an environment that they trust. If they lay in a lion's pose where their paws are out in front of them and their head is down their paws like this, or they're in a sploot where their legs are out back, that's kind of like they're in a ready to play or on alert position. Like they're just kind of waiting for something to happen. If they're curled up tight in a ball or they burrow under a blanket, that could mean that they're stressed. So their sleeping patterns, the way they sleep, do have something to do with how they're feeling. We have noticed probably in the last couple of years, Quinn every once in a while will, and I think this is for comfort, she's comforting herself like a baby would. She will get on our bed and she'll take her blanket in her mouth, or our blanket, my comforter, in her mouth and hold it there. And she'll breathe really heavy. And I can get right down and lay right next to her and look at her, and she won't release it until she's ready. But I think it's a comfort thing for her. She doesn't do it all the time, but it's way cute and just one of those ways. If a dog props their head up on a pillow, so you notice your dog's getting on the floor. I know, like, our dogs are not supposed to be on the bed. They're not supposed to be on the couch. I know that. But say a pillow's on the floor, or they're propping their head up on something. It could be that they're having issues breathing. So, just like we said, pay attention to poo. It's not a bad thing to just kind of be aware of how your dog sleeps or how they rest. And the one where our dogs are just like laying on the floor flat out on the tile, they are hot and you have run them and they need a break. And so you want to make sure that they stay hydrated. A lot of our dogs love ice, and it's okay to give them ice. Kayak loves ice. He hears, well, I don't have an ice maker now, but when we're in a restaurant and he hears ice, he'll be like, oh my God, and he'll sit right up. So we make sure he gets ice. And it's okay to give dogs ice.
Oh, by the way, be advised, if you give your dog ice at home, the ice maker at home, we call it the diver tax because it started with diver, and we have to give an ice cube out of the offering to each dog that's sitting there waiting. But be advised, if the dogs get accustomed to doing that at home and you go out to some place where it's self-serve sodas, be sure to get your dogs seated and under control so they're not going, okay, I'm getting my ice now. Yes, they could still get a piece of ice, but be aware. We've had some folks in restaurants where they were seated with their dog and the dog heard somebody else hit the ice machine and the dog was ready to go. All right, I'm going to get my ice. So just a FYI.
Yes. Also, for those of you that may be new or not aware of this, dogs do dream. So they might make a twitching sound or a squeaking sound, or they might start barking, or they might act like they're running, or they're snoring, or dogs do all of that. That's just a normal, they're dreaming. Usually what I understand is they're dreaming about something they've done during the day or the day before. That's what all the reading that I've done, that's what it says. But they do dream. They make funny sounds. Sometimes they'll make sounds where their stomach will go up and down, and you'll see it and you'll be like, oh, what's happening? They're just dreaming. And that's okay. So sometimes if they're dreaming, like if they're dreaming heavily and they're doing that a lot, I'll just go over and very gently pet their tummies, you know, because to I don't know, for me it seems like they're kind of stressing themselves out when it's a lot. Like Quinn sometimes will be, and I'll hear her whimpering. And so I'll just go over and gently pet her. All is good. So dogs do dream.
And they will bark just out of the blue.
Yes.
And you'll go, what in the world? Well, they were dreaming and they barked in their dream, and that wakes them up, and then they're all startled. And if you're out and about with a dog and that happens, it's kind of interesting for everybody.
Oh my gosh, so cute. Huh. If you're able to, you can click on the link, and David sent Andy's and Bob, I believe, at the Rays game. That's cute. Okay, so Joni had a question earlier.
And Lauren asked about getting meds mailed. You have to have a mailing address. I hear it's difficult to mail to somebody if you don't have an address for them.
Shush up, Laura. That's true. It is. Oh, there, Joni. Joni asks, do you use straight scissors, thinning scissors, or clippers to trim the fuzzy on the feet? So for my fuzz on the front up here that I pull up, I use scissors that are a little bit curved. They have a curve on them. And then I use the same scissors, I think, for the bottom to cut the bottom off, the fuzz off the bottom.
My son has said his beard trimmers work great on the between the pads on the bottom. He just uses his beard trimmer, and he said it works great. It doesn't touch them.
Yeah, that might be an easy. It might be easy. That might be an easy way too to get them used to a Dremel, like it's because it's less of a sound. A lot of our dogs don't like the Dremel. Kayak hates it. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Bissell freaks. But yeah, the beard trimmer, if you've got one, little hair trimmer, that works really good.
Okay.
Have we reached the questions for the good of the order kind of thing?
No, because we wanted to talk about. So I did want to do a quick, because I think some of our dogs are there. So I've noticed Kayak is now 7. He'll be 8 months pretty soon. And I've noticed in the last week or two that my little man is now a teenager and he's doing naughty things. So I started to do some research on it because it's just been, I don't know, it's been a little while, I guess, since I've had a puppy this age. I don't know. Anyway, so our dogs go through a teenage phase and it's around 7 to 10 months, but it can vary by dog. It's not set in stone that it's 7 to 10 months. Could be 6 to 11 months for your dog. Could be just the 8th month for your dog. Every dog is different, but it's approximately 7 to 10 months. So my dog is falling right into there, and he's just doing naughty things that he's not done up to this point. Up to this point, he has been perfect boy. So this is what I understand. One, time frame will vary also by gender, by breed, and by environment. And they begin to willingly defy cues, like things that they were doing before, they suddenly start not doing. So don't be surprised, for especially those of you that have children and have been through the teenage years with your children. Okay. Part of the problem is also trainers. Usually you'll hear Laura and I say, if a dog has a problem, it's usually the trainer. It's usually the handler. Okay. In this case, it could also be because by about 7, 8 months, we're feeling pretty confident about our dog's skills, what they're able to do. We've been taking them out, et cetera, et cetera. And we kind of tend to, maybe the training falls off a little bit. And so these were the 3 recommendations that I read about that I thought were really good. 1, decrease freedom. I'll explain that in a second, but that was one of them. Decrease freedom, increase training, and try new things. So to me, decrease freedom, for instance, So last night I tutor online, and while I was tutoring, my beautiful boy decided that he was going to get up in the seat in the Airstream. He has not done that ever. Well, here he is, looking just as happy as I'll get out. Just sitting there, and he was looking at me like, what are you going to do? You're teaching. Ah. So I was like, I put the thing on mute. I'm like, get off. And he just sat there looking at me just like he did tonight when we started the Zoom class. Or this Zoom. So last night I had my husband come get him, took a leash, and I leashed him, and he was right by my side. So he did not have the opportunity to jump up on the couch anymore. So that would be decreasing their freedom. So if you have to leash your dog in the house because they're doing things that are naughty, there's nothing wrong with that. Increased training. So today, when we went out, he had his vest on, and I was working very hard at just some basic skills. And he did beautifully. We went to this lighthouse way out in Maine somewhere, and he was so good. And then of course, right now we're in a period where we're trying new things all the time. And he's, some of these things he's accepting beautifully, and other things he's having to adjust to. So, but I thought that was very interesting, just thinking about our dogs going through what we see as teenage years or teenage months for dogs. They do experience it. And so, just beef up your training a little bit, spend a little bit more. Maybe you spend 5 or 10 minutes 3 times a day. Maybe now it's 4 times a day. And then don't give them any freedom, because that's when they're going to get in trouble. And that's on us. If they get in trouble, I always like, okay, that's on me. The other day, Quinn, we went out of the car, we left it on, they had the air. Quinn was in there. I guess we were gone a little too long because she didn't eat. She shredded an entire roll of paper towels. So all over the backseat of my car. It looked like, I don't know, all this puffiness. So she was mad. And that's what she does when she's mad. When we lived in a home, she would find paper and shred paper. So I stupidly left the paper towels somewhere where she could get them. And she's almost 6. So, but yes, our dogs go through a time of teenager, doggy hormones, chemical changes, brain stuff going on. And so we have to be diligent. So if your dog is going to be there soon, or is in it now, or, oh gosh, I'm so glad they're out of it. Just be aware, especially with those of you that have puppies. Any questions about that? I see some things in the chat. Oh. He doesn't see Andy's right now. Yeah. I don't know. Okay. Any questions about your teenage years for your dog? Or in regards to, oh, go ahead.
I know I brought this up to you and Laura, but I said I'd kind of save it for Zoom. So Velma's getting an attitude, even though she's only 4.5 months, and she's barking a lot. So if you guys could just go over the best way, like the cats don't want to play with her. Siri has a toy she wants. This one bone's too big for her and it falls out of her mouth. She barks, she throws herself on the ground, a whole temper tantrum.
And she's 4 months old, 16 weeks old.
Yeah. So one thing I'm going to tell you, Caitlin, she's a girl.
I know. Listen, Siri's a girl. She's a wire fox terrier, and she's not a barker.
Yeah. No, I think sometimes with the dogs that I've experienced with New Horizons, I find that they are definitely have more, I don't want to say more personality, because it's not that. It's just they're sassy. More. They have
Sass.
a sassy.
Sass.
Yes. Sassiness.
Sass is a good word.
Yes. Yep. They're sassy.
This is why I don't want to have girl dogs. This thing is yips all day. She's so noisy. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. So part of it is a girl, but also it might be that when she starts to do that, you need to do something else to distract her.
Okay.
Take her for a walk, play a game with her, do some tasks with her, something to distract her from.
But is it don't give in though, do something else?
Yes, you don't want to give in. No, not if she's Not if she's barking at you. No. Mm-mm. Because then she will continue to bark at you because you've given her what she wants.
And I know, like, quiet.
I would make it uncomfortable for her. Take your fingers and wrap them around her muzzle, and make just that's uncomfortable a little bit. Because if you also give her the attention, she's going to go, oh, if I bark, I get the attention, I get what I want.
Yeah, so we're trying to ignore her, and then we're watching TV, and she's just there sassing, and it's.
I would wrap my fingers around her muzzle and give just a little bit of a pressure.
Okay.
And then offer her a praiser for not barking.
Okay.
Make it a little bit uncomfortable, and
good quiet. Good.
Yeah.
And then reward when she's like when they bite at you, you do the same thing, and then offer your hand back to say, and then they kiss it and don't bite it. Well, what a good puppy for not doing it.
Right.
Isn't it common with teething? Like, she actually just lost a tooth a few minutes ago. But like with teething, I feel like she's been worse this last week. She
could be. She's just feeling, but she's learning to play you. She's getting a response from you when you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And wearing her out. Is it when you first come home?
No, it's usually though in the evening when we're sitting down, my boyfriend and I together, and all the animals, and she starts lashing out.
Jackie has an arsenic hour about 8 o'clock. He starts getting okay. All right.
It's about the same time.
At which point we have to go out and we throw the ball and we run around the yard.
Yep.
And then he comes back in and he's fine. But he kind of has children. They have what we used to call arsenic hour.
We're out a little bit too.
Okay. Stop it. Yeah, my mom calls that the witching hour for our cats.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got Velma, Shaggy, and Daphne here this evening.
Aw. Yeah, so definitely wearing her out. So
yeah,
if you have to
just got her
go.
last puppy shot, so we're going to be able to start doing proper walks in the neighborhood now.
Oh, yeah. I find that wearing a dog out is the best thing for them. So it might be a long walk. It might be just a romp in the yard. It might be, who knows, whatever works for you and the dog. But yeah, my daughter has a female that she got from New Horizons, and she's still at 2 a talker. But my daughter has learned, 1, not to respond to her, or to do something that's distracting. Like she starts to bark for, Brittany knows what she's barking for, and she'll be like, nope, we're going to go do this. And they'll go do something completely opposite. So yeah.
And yes, Melina, we remember Sage.
Yeah, Sage. Yes.
Talk about a sassy girl.
Right? Yep. Okay, the last thing we were going to talk about was leave it, right, Laura? I'm just looking back at.
Yep, and we've got a few minutes. The other thing
Okay.
too is be sure to you're weighing your dogs.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yep. Please be sure you're weighing your dogs. If you have a Publix near you, most of the Publix still have a scale, and it's really good for them to go in there and have to get up on the scale and be weighed. If you can stop in at your vet every so often, but please make sure that once a month you're weighing them. If you have a prison dog, that prison dog's weight should not be going up that much. It should be pretty much staying the same. But if you have a puppy, obviously the puppy weight is going to go up. So, okay, so we want to talk real quick about leave it. So leave it is a big command for us. Well, not us, but our dogs. And we need to be sure that we're practicing that on a regular basis. Puppies, one of the things you can do is put snacks in your hand and put them out there. So you put one snack that you don't want them to get in this hand and the other snack that they could have in another hand. And you will put it out and you'll say, leave it. And they'll lick your hands because you have something yummy in there, hopefully. Could even put a piece of bacon in there. And they'll smell. The minute they turn their head away, like, because you're saying leave it, the minute they decide that, oh no, okay, you're not going to give it to me, then you're like, yes, good job. And then you can reward them.
Not with what was in the hand they were licking.
Right, not, yes.
But the other hand. They never get the leave it object.
Yes, they never get the leave it object. They shouldn't get the leave it object. Right. And so that's just something you have to practice it over and over and over and over again at home. So find some really good, like I've done it with hot dogs, because that seems to be a go-to for dogs. So not a full hot dog, just a little piece hot dog on the floor, and we practice leave it. I tried to look, I know there's a video in our Facebook page. I'll try to find it. I just
we did one at Target with Thanos.
Yes.
With Thanos.
Oh, that's right. Okay,
Thanos
I'll try to repost it on the friends page. So is this, I guess you'll need to let us know in the chat if you're not part of the friends page, but we post a lot of training videos on there. And the last training, I suggested, hold on, I'm going to look right now and just to make sure. On the friends page, if you go there and you look under, hold on, and you look under, nope, that's not it. You look under videos, I believe, no, media, I think it is. Hold on, there we go, Friends Who Like New Horizons. Okay, so if you go to our Friends Who Like New Horizons service dogs and you go to media, under media is all kinds of stuff, but there are a lot of videos and pictures and training videos, and you just have to search through them. I will try to go through and see if I can't find a couple and current ones and put them in as a new post so you can see some leave its, because I know we have some new people on here. Does anybody have anything that they want to ask or add, or a good thing you've used for leave it? This would be the time for you to speak. Anybody? Nobody?
Ooh, we're scary tonight.
I know. So leave it becomes extremely important, especially when you're out, for them leaving things on the ground, for them leaving things from underneath the table. If you're taking your dog out, which hopefully you are, and you get to a restaurant, please check under the table for anything, food remnants that were left. We really want to set our dogs up for success. So you're not going to go to a table or sit near a table that has, been dropped. The other day we were somewhere with Kayak. There was a French fry on the floor. Oh, we were at McDonald's. There was a French fry on the floor. And I said to Tim, hey, look under the table. And he looked down, and I knew Kayak had his eyes on it. And Tim just took his foot, scooted it away, picked it up and threw it away. And that ended it. But I set him up for success so that he wouldn't be under that table with that French fry, because that's just, who doesn't want a French fry on the floor? A dog. So they're still dogs. So no, I don't want one either, but the dogs do. So even though they're a lot of especially our older dogs, they're real good at what they do, but they're still dogs. So that's in everything. We need to remember that they're still dogs. Any questions? Y'all are so quiet. All I can hear is Quinn snoring. I hear you snoring, Quinny. Hopefully she's having a good dream about her day today. All right, I'm going to look in the chat, see if there's anything else left. I asked for them to clean. Oh, good. So you can ask somebody if you're in maybe probably at McDonald's, they won't do it, but at other places, they will clean up under your table.
Or reseat you.
Right. Yes. Or reseat you. Yes.
Yes, Wendy, we were doing those videos when we conned Caitlin and Russ into the whole puppy raiser gig.
Okay, I'll have to go back and look. I'll go back and look.
Yes,
and
that was April 6th. So it was April 7th for the.
Okay. Wow. There you go. Okay. So real quick, rabies shots are not being given at the office, but the DPV is. So just remember to call ahead if you know your dog's DPV for these puppies is coming. And also for those of you that don't live near New Horizons, I took Kayak to I looked up cheap shots because I was in South Carolina. I didn't know where to go. And a Humane Society was giving shots for $10. So I went to got his rabies shot for $10. So just be aware you don't necessarily have to go to your vet. You just want to make sure you get a receipt that it shows that he has or they have their rabies shots. For those of you that I know rabies shots will be coming down the road. Because I know they can be expensive at your vet.
Jeff, in answer to your question about taking them out, lots of times when we have homes and our dogs are here, we let them out in the backyard to take care of their business. We say, go busy, and out they go. The question on the monthly eval is sometimes do you have them on a leash and take them out and encourage them to busy while they're on a leash? And
Okay.
that's just to keep them so that they understand that, okay, this is the time you need to do it now. And if they don't, then they come in. But it's to encourage that, yes, this is the busy command that I need to do this, I do it now.
Yeah, because we don't have a fenced in backyard, so we always take Armstrong out on a leash. So that's why it was a little bit confusing for us.
Right. Well, that you always do it. You don't occasionally.
Yeah, exactly. Not occasionally. We always do it.
Right. Right. But for me with a fenced backyard, lots of times, particularly in the morning, I'll send the dogs out and I'll watch to make sure that, okay, we got all of the business taken care of, and then they come back in. But in the evening, I very often will take Shaggy out on his leash and we busy on leash out in the front yard. Just so that he kind of gets the idea.
All right, great. Thanks.
You're welcome.
So I just saw that Debbie said she's turning Latte in next week. So congratulations. But Debbie, I would love to see you raise again. But I think the next dog, I think the next dog you might want to try is a prison dog. You might want to. I know Latte was a challenging puppy. And she's a girl too. It's the girls.
We're gonna get her set up with a lab breeder. That way they don't have to part with anybody.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my husband's having a harder time saying goodbye to Latte than I am.
Oh.
And he really would like to have a dog that he could have for longer. So anyway.
Oh, gotcha.
So he's interested in a breeder puppy. We'll just have to wait and see.
Gotcha. Well, see, that's where you turn one in and you just get one. So you don't have to get a puppy though. That's why I say you get a prison dog, because the prison dogs have all their skills, and you're just continuing that training,
Right.
Call it rent a dog.
Right.
Yes,
but then
rent a dog.
You don't get to keep them.
No, that's true. But that's why you just keep trading them in, so you feel like you always have a dog.
Exactly. That's what I keep telling you.
Yes, that's true.
Anyway.
Well, thank you, Debbie, for everything you've done with her. I know you've worked really hard with her, so we appreciate it.
Well, it's been a very interesting journey with Latte, and she's actually a wonderful dog. So
I think she'll do well in prison.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
She will.
Yeah, she's had lots of experiences. Yes. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, any other questions for the good of the group? Laura and I will stay on a couple of minutes if you have a question or want to ask something, but otherwise we are done. Lori, do you want to do some reminders for August?
August, if you haven't pre-registered to get a portrait done and you want to for the fundraiser, the link is on in the newsletter. It's also on the Facebook page and an event. That's going to be the 28th, and it's going to be at the Seminole Town Center Mall. It is a Sunday. We switched it up a little bit because folks tell us that sometimes they need something other than Saturday morning. So it is a Sunday afternoon, 2 to 4 for the training, and the photographer is going to be there until 5. It will go quicker and you won't have to wait if you do pre-register. Let's see, our next Zoom will be on the 16th, and that's a Q&A. And the 13th is Buddy Break. For those of you in the Central Florida area, in the Orlando area, not this Saturday, but next Saturday is Buddy Break. If you want details about that, you can shoot me a message or you can check the past newsletters.
Yeah, also Buddy Breaks are pretty much all over the state of Florida. So if you're interested, if you go to, I believe it's Nathaniel's Hope .org or it's Nathaniel's Hope. You can look, there are churches and other places that do a buddy break, and it is a great exposure for the dog. You don't have to get involved in the church. You don't have to get involved in buddy break. You can just call them and say, hey, I have a service dog in training, and this would be great exposure for them. My dog is great with kids. Can I come? And chances are they'll let you come. Or you just come to the one where we're already established if you're in the area. But that is an option. It's a great opportunity for the dogs to be around kids and music and running around and just wheelchairs and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. Bouncing balls, running, shrieking children, kind of our target audience too for some of our dogs. Kids in wheelchairs, rhythm instruments. It's a lot.
Yes. Laura, when do they need to pre-register by to do the pictures?
They can even do it day of.
Okay, day of. Okay. And then Kirsten asks, yes, they need to have all their shots before buddy break. Yes. Yep.
Yes.
And I hope we've gotten everything.
Oh, and if you have a puppy, remember that about five months-ish, they're gonna need to go from a bandana to a vest because otherwise they look goofy.
So call the office. Call the office so you can change it out pretty quickly.
Call the office and get them swapped because right now Kayak he's pushing the border on his bandana. He's about ready for a vest. I'm not ready for him to be in a vest, but at 43 pounds, he's ready.
They got to grow up, Mama.
I know. Just so fast.
Yes.
Just so you know, you said Kayak instead of Shaggy.
I probably did. I was reading instead of thinking.
I thought there was another question, but I don't see it. I don't see it. Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
And yes, the dogs do need to be service dogs. You can't bring your pets along because it is the mall, and they only allow service animals, and that's kind of begrudging at this mall. So we don't want to abuse their privilege. This is the mall where they told us for team training that we had to leave because we hadn't asked permission to come.
Laura, what was that? I just caught the end of that. What about the mall?
Oh, we're going back to Seminole Town Center. And I said, don't bring your pets.
Oh, okay. I thought you said don't bring the service dogs in training. Okay.
No, don't bring pets. Only the service dogs in training can do the portrait.
And expect to stand up for your rights there.
Well, I'm calling this, that's on my list for tomorrow, just to let them know we're coming. I'm not asking her permission. I'm offering the courtesy of advance notification.
Uh-huh.
And if there's a problem, then I'll be sure that I have backup when I get there.
Yeah, bring the copies of the laws with you, and and start recording. We goofed up last time as we didn't record.
Yeah, we talked about that. I don't think you were on. Sandra Radcliffe got denied service at the Flagler Tavern. I did find out the name of it.
Okay.
And they called the police on Sandra and Curtis. Sandra had a printed out copy of the Florida statute.
And the cops didn't look at it?
The cops went, oh, well, I don't know, but does that mean they can let you not come in? And she's like, no. It basically ended up being, okay, fine. They changed their story and they said they weren't refusing the dog entrance. It was Curtis that they didn't want him to come in.
Why?
Well, that they have the right to refuse service to anyone, is what they said.
But that's also discrimination.
Well, So it worked out that they had changed their story multiple times while the cops were talking to them. And the cop said, "Do you have a recording?" So Sandra said she learned two things. One, to call the cops herself rather than have the restaurant do it.
Right.
And to record from the
Yeah, I wish we had gotten that one when she was so nasty.
Yeah.
With Patty and I.
Yep.
That was just, oh, she was nasty.
Janet, just while you're on, what about bug spray for dogs?
I think it's all, if you do it lightly. And there's some that are natural. I know with like tea tree oil and
okay.
But if you do it lightly, most dogs are not going to lick themselves if they taste that stuff.
Right. Okay.
If you just do a misting over it, there's not enough in there to hurt anybody.
Okay. All right. Just wanted somebody.
You got to be careful with ticks up north where you are.
Yeah, I know. I've been looking. I found one on kayaks just under his eye probably a month ago, but I found it right away.
Having one of the blowers, those are amazing for finding ticks.
Yeah. Oh my God, kayak would flip. He does not handle that well. We're working on it. We've been going into bathrooms where there's blowers. He's getting better, but it's still
not his favorite thing.
He's not real thrilled about it. But no, I'm checking them constantly under their armpits and everywhere. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, they're not rolling around in, going in the brush a lot.
Yeah, just some areas are worse than other up north.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
True.
Is that training class this Sunday or when is that at the mall?
The 28th, the end of the month. Okay. It's a Sunday afternoon.
Okay. Just remind me and I'll keep my phone handy if I need to come bail you guys out of jail.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Okay, so we are done. If you need to stay on, I'm gonna stop recording.